Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled.
At this point, I'm convinced Americans just be saying stuff on the internet just to be saying stuff on the internet, because good God, just when I think the bar can't get any lower, they bring a shovel. And of course, I'm not innocent of this. I've said some pretty dumb things in my life, even very recently. You guys have called me out on a lot of the goblin things I've been saying. But as we all know, the United States has not been looking too pretty in the eyes of the public as of recent, especially over this last year. Things seem to just be getting worse and worse and worse, and that includes intelligence levels in the United States. It just doesn't seem like it's a thriving thing over there. So we're going to be covering some posts by Americans that are absolutely brain dead in this video today. If you've heard anything that was a little bit off the wall, something that made you give us the side eye, let me know in the comments down below. It could be something that I've said, it could be something that any of us USAians have said. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. If you guys are returning viewers, welcome back. But before we get started, as always, we are chasing 1 million subscribers, so go ahead and hit that like button and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Right here it says the Confederate States Army would have rolled any contemporary European army like a barrel. Quite the bold statement there, Chief. Let's see where this is headed. Here you have this lovely picture of the Confederate troops, and at the very top of it, it says the Confederate States Army would have rolled any contemporary European army like a barrel. Very based of this individual. Underneath that, at the bottom of this post, you have an individual by the name Will Shriver that absolutely bodies this initial comment by saying, incontrovertible fact, the Americans have never once in their entire history fought a major power peer adversary at the zenith of its strength in a high-intensity war. Never once. As far as I know, that seems to be true. I don't think we've actually gone toe-to-toe with any major power, at least at that point, at their full strength. Just head on, you know what I mean? Like head on, brutal, crazy, nasty, brawlic war, right? The only country I can really see that we did that with, and it seemed like the bodies were piling up on both sides, was Vietnam. And I'm not entirely sure if we entered the war at their full 100% capacity or we jumped in a little bit later. But you guys can let me know in the comments down below. He should stick to being an armchair warlord. Americans were literally fighting with outdated line tactics during the Civil War. That will never get old for me. Every time I look back at that point in history in the United States, I'm like, the Civil War was definitely an interesting time because we were just charging at each other head on with bayonets and swords and guns and whatnot. I know like the old line war tactics, that was the thing, right? Way back when. But you gotta think like, A, who came up with that? B, that just seems like, it seems like the most diabolical way to go out. There's no shot you're surviving if you're in the front line. Like the very front row of a line formation, you're not surviving that. I'm surprised people didn't just run away, you know? The second they start charging, some people got cold feet and backed out. It is a shame there was an ocean between them and Prussia. Now that I did not know. That would have been a pretty wicked war there. They would not stand a chance against a Crimean War-hardened British army, even before the reforms that came after the war from the lessons learned and mistakes made. Same for the French army too. I think our heads are pretty big in the United States because again, like the wars that we have fought for the most part, we've had a lot of assistance. I mean, I don't think we've actually entered a war completely by ourselves, no proxy support, nothing, and absolutely dominated somebody. It's always been with the assistance of allies, which is fine. You know what I mean? That's kind of how wars are fought. But it's interesting because a lot of people tend to brag a lot about that particular point. Now, I'm not saying that other countries haven't lost wars or won wars as well, but you can tell that the wars that America has quote unquote won, we tend to dangle that over a ton of people's heads. We love to do that. And I haven't seen that really done by any person from any other country, at least that I've interacted with in my 30 years of life. Now, I can be wrong. Maybe there's a trope that people from different European countries love to dangle the fact that they won X war or this war, but I don't ever hear people bringing up wars that they won besides Americans. I've consistently heard Americans bring up wars that have been won, specifically WW1 and WW2. And yeah, I'm like, bro, Relax. My cash got turned down. Uh-oh. We are all too familiar with posts like these. Another American in the wild assuming that the country this person traveled to took American cash. As we can see here, there's an image of this guy being very perplexed at a train station, so it seems, and then a side-by-side image of some empty train tracks. And of course, the comment above that says, we're getting the full Paris experience riding the metro and all. The one thing I learned real quick, they do not want American dollars. My cash got turned down everywhere except the taxi. Excuse me, what the fuck? The comment underneath that smartly replies by saying, why would France accept US dollars? Do stores in the US accept other currencies than the US dollar? And the answer is simple. Absolutely not. So why would you expect that to work the other way around? I genuinely don't understand how people can be this dumb. Okay? I don't understand. Let's look at these comments because they absolutely packed this individual up. That taxi driver probably ripped them off with the exchange rate, and I'm not mad about it. That's what I'm talking about. I'm like, bro, huh? What do you mean this person accepts US dollars? Well, I'd be very weary of that, okay? I have a very interesting story myself. So I traveled to South Korea a long time ago, 2017 to be exact. And as I landed in South Korea, I was like, okay, how do I take the bus and all the trains and blah, 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 blah. And this taxi driver was real eager to drive me around to wherever I wanted to go. And where I needed to go was probably an hour from the airport that I landed at. And I happened to have a bunch of cash on me just because I'm like, okay, I'm traveling to another country. I'll get this money exchanged to whatever currency I'm traveling to. Well, the taxi driver was like, hey, I'll take you to XYZ, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, how much is that going to be? An hour ride in a foreign country? Like, that's going to be pretty pricey because I understand an hour of a taxi ride in the United States, for instance, that's going to run you like $400-$500. All right. And he was saying casually, 400. And I'm like, US dollars? And of course, I'm in another country. So that was me exerting my US defaultism. I'm like, you mean Korean won, right? Like 400,000, like Korean won, 500,000 Korean won, which is still ridiculously expensive because an hour taxi ride in South Korea using the Korean won, if you use the taxi app, it's just like 70,000 won, maybe 100,000 won. And if you're driving fancy, 200,000 won. But this individual was saying, oh, no, 300 USD. And I'm like, yeah, get out of here, bro. I'll figure the bus out. Had an American pull this crap in a pub I managed here in Australia. Comes to pay his table meal, significant like $500, and pulls out the USD. I go, we can't accept that. Anyway, after arguing for 15 minutes, I did accept it at the value on the menu, AUD, for the same amount in USD. I told him, I was not a currency exchange, LOL. Anyhow, brought the money out of the till so I can balance it and made a tidy profit exchanging it myself. At the time, the AUD was in the toilet. He then goes, I was gonna tip, but now I'm not. The look on his face when I told him this is Australia. We don't expect a tip was priceless. I'm getting secondhand embarrassment from that story. Good Lord. Well, yeah, I'm glad he was able to get his money's worth out that situation because good God, again, I'm telling you, if you do not bring the local currency with you, you will get caught lacking, okay? They will scam the skin and bones off your body as they should because why did you not come prepared? But this is a very interesting situation where an American was at a pub racking up a big ass bill and expected the bartender to be like, yeah, take my US dollars. He's like, you know what? Yeah. I would have charged double. I would be mad if the taxi driver didn't rip these entitled idiots off. That's what I'm saying. I would have ripped the motherfuckers off so quick. Oh my God. It would have been ridiculous. I would have told my taxi driver buddies, I'm like, I just ran it up on buddy over there. And like, what do you mean? Like, I can't believe this bozo gave me his local currency. So I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'll take it if you got like 3 times that amount. It's just crazy. You can't go to another country and expect them to accept your currency unless there's a big plastered sign that says, we also accept this currency. People aren't local currency exchanges. Why are they like this? I'm genuinely asking. Well, I think it's because we have ingratiated ourselves in a culture that deters us from getting educated. The UK is being run over by Muslims who literally want to kill you. You are much safer in America. We are exporting our illegal immigrants. You're the perfect example of why women shouldn't vote. I've been seeing comments from troglodytes like this all over the internet. And it seems like all over the internet. Maybe it's just my algorithm. but it's seeming like many other individuals I interact with have unfortunately succumbed to the same type of content as well. Just people in the comment sections of random videos going ballistic, saying stuff like this. I feel like we're breaking records left and right for running for, hey, we are probably the most undesirable country right now. And not by any other metric, but us being incredibly corrupt. It's nuts. So, anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at these comments. Our first comment says, the US homicide rate is at least 5 times that of the UK. I don't understand how unaware most Americans are about like the crime statistics. We love bringing up crime statistics when it comes to race and who commits most of the crimes and blah, blah, blah. But then people tend to pull up outdated statistics, and they also tend to leave out particular types of crimes. Guess we can chalk it up to you can't argue with an American. Once we decide we're right, we're right. Even if we're wrong, we're right. In 2025, knife crime alone was 11 times higher in the US than the UK per capita, and yet we get made fun of for it. Doesn't help that all knife crime related incidents are included in our statistics, inflating them for dumb news sites to pull from and dramatize. Edit from the World Population Review. In 2023, there were 1,688 recorded poking deaths in the United States and 31 in the UK. Then the US had a population of 343,477,335, and the UK was 68,265,200. Rounding those, we get 1,688 deaths out of the 343,500,000 and 31 deaths out of the 68.3 million. This equates to the US having 0.49 deaths per 100K and the UK having 0.045 deaths per 100K. So I apologize, Reddit. It wasn't 2025, it was 2023. Yeah, that seems about right. It's pretty intense over the United States. I mean, listen, our gun statistics alone, deaths resulting from gun-related incidents is absolutely insane on its own, let alone other additional crimes on top of that. It's absolutely wicked, and it's not anything to brag about. Show me a game with bigger global ratings than the Super Bowl. Can you tell we've been down this road before? You know what's funny? The United States is packed with a variety of different sports, right? And we love adding the World Series or World Event or global for the final bout of a lot of our sports. And the funny thing is, no other country participates in a very good chunk of a lot of American sports. Global LOL. See, I'm ready for someone to say the World Cup, because the World Cup by far has an astronomically higher amount of global ratings than the fucking Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? Every country has their massive event for whatever local sport that they play. So the United States apparently thinks the Super Bowl is a global thing. Apparently. Considering most of them have never left their hometowns, let alone the US, they really do consider the US as the entire world, LOL. And let's not forget, our media feeds into that. And with the vast amount of people in the United States that are closed-minded, living in small towns, along with the lack of proper education, they do tend to believe that the United States is pretty much their entire world. And there's no reason that any other place on the planet has any type of significance. But that is literally the perspective of someone who lives within their own bubble. Super Bowl, as in USAians' unit of food portions? Okay, now that was funny. Okay, that was hilarious. Can I get like 5 Super Bowls of those noodles, please? Hey, I can't blame y'all for saying that either, because we be measuring things in feet, noses, toenails, hair follicles, foreheads. What the fuck are we talking about? Okay, what are we talking about? Our measuring units are diabolical. Anyways, our next comment says, oh, well, how many people watch that outside of America? 3.5? Oddly enough, I actually have heard of some people wanting to watch the American Super Bowl just for the love of the game. You know what I mean? Just for the love of the game. I mean, I do have some German homies that just watch it just cause, you know what I mean? Like, I guess they're very invested in American sports and stuff, but I don't think it's very many people watching the Super Bowl in the United States worldwide. Do y'all schools not have metal detectors? Question mark. Okay. I do have to ramble a little bit about this. I think I've let you guys know a lot at this point, so many of my returning viewers do know that, yes, your boy is from the city of Chicago, located in Illinois in the United States, right? And I grew up going to schools that had metal detectors when you walk through the threshold of the schools. Now, when I was young and stuff like that, I'm like, hey, cool. Like, I did think that was kind of weird because the only place I had ever seen metal detectors outside from that was going through airport security. But then I'm like, oh, they got the airport security stuff at schools too. Strange, but okay. Mainly because kids were bringing weapons to school and all kind of craziness. So that was kind of a deterrent. When I graduated high school and wound up meeting, friends in my adult years, I remember asking people, one of my first questions, like, when we were like sparking up a conversation was like, hey, weird question, but did you guys have metal detectors as well in your high schools? And everybody looked at me like I lost my rabbit ass mind. But it seems like that sentiment has changed greatly because a lot of schools across the United States, they either are adding metal detectors to their schooling systems or they already have had them for quite a while. Like over the last decade, which is sad, right? I mean, I was genuinely curious because I'm like, yo, all the schools that I knew of in Chicago had metal detectors, whether or not they were private schools, public schools, whatever. Now, maybe some didn't have them, but it was more of a safety precaution because you just don't know. It's sometimes not even the students bringing crazy weapons to school. It's the teachers sometimes. You never know. Do y'all schools not have metal detectors? And the comment replying to that says, I think you went to prison. Underneath that, the individual replies by saying, what do you mean? Another person replies, not in the UK, man. Schools are pretty safe here. That's not necessarily the case right now in the United States. I feel like every year it gets worse and worse and worse. Like literally, I've talked about school shootings over the last 5-6 years, and it has not gotten better. If anything, our reporting on it has gotten way worse, meaning we don't even talk about it anymore. We just know it's happening. We're like, cool. Again, unless there's a certain number of bodies piled up, we don't even really qualify it as a serious shooting. We're like, oh yeah, like some kids died, whatever. Saying those words should be jarring. Especially like, going to a place that you're supposed to be getting an education, right? Like, why are people dropping like flies in a place where they should be receiving an education? Why are you worried about if that'll be the last day on earth? Like, imagine going to school and you're going to this goof ass fucking math class and, you're just doing your little math problems and stuff. And then some kid in the background is crashing about how he didn't get his Fortnite V-Bucks. And all of a sudden you see a "you died" screen. Like, that's crazy. I'm like, I didn't even do anything. This kid crashed out and ra-ta-ta-ta-ta the entire classroom. It sounds so crazy to have metal detectors in schools. See, that's the response I got from fellow Americans when I brought this up maybe 10, 12 years ago. But nowadays, if I bring it up, it seems like that's more and more of a common sentiment across the United States, unfortunately. Airport and court are the only places with detectors where I live. Schools have no guards, detectors, or locked doors for the most part. Oh, that sent a little chill down my spine because I do remember our school also had a bunch of police officers on the premise and whatnot as well. And that wasn't an uncommon thing. I mean, there were definitely at least a couple officers around every school to kind of keep the peace, along with metal detectors as well. Now, don't get me wrong, Chicago is a beautiful place. There's a lot of things to do, lovely people, tons of shopping, sights to see, things to do, but you still have to be kind of on point. You know what I'm saying? You just gotta be on point in general. You never know what'll happen. What? No. Why the hell would we need that? Here in Denmark, you can actually just walk into any school and look around. Yeah, you could literally never do that in the United States of America. You could never do that. Never do that. They'll look at you extra crazy. First of all, you'll get checked at the door. They're like, excuse me, sir. What are you doing here? Are you a student? Are you a parent? And if the answer is no, they're going to ask you if you're a teacher, a worker for the school. And if those answers are no, they're calling the cops on you, buddy. They're calling the cops on you, big dog. No, you can't just walk into random schools in America at all. No, that's not a thing. Now, maybe in rural schools, possibly, but then you got to deal with the locals. So that's between you and God, okay? Let me know what you guys think about that, because that is definitely something that I have had many, many, many conversations with other fellow American peers about. And they're like, whoa, what? That's crazy. As far as the metal detector thing goes. Now, the other tropes, like, having a security guard and blah, 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 I feel like that's more common, but like the metal detector thing was definitely not common until recently, because I definitely grew up with that. But I was also in a major city, but all over the United States, it's becoming more common for people to have metal detector systems in their schools, and then also specialized drills for school shooters, for active shooters. It's crazy. That is insane. EU tourism in UK isn't international. They're both in Europe. Like a Texan going to Vegas is still in America. How many dumb comments did we see in this video? Let me know in the comments down below. What's the dumbest thing an American's ever said to you? Because this one's insane. Okay, this one's insane. The comments were clapping back at this dumbass, and the first one says, so is the US a continent or is Europe a country? Congratulations, you have successfully trapped an American in an unskippable cutscene where they have to answer the diabolical. We all know what the answer will be from my fellow American. Of course Europe's a country. Based on that American's comment, he clearly thinks that Europe is a fucking country. Like Canadian going to Mexico is still in North America. See how easy that whole argument got flipped on his head? Yeah. What the freak was that comment? And I've said stuff like this. So again, I'm not absolved. I'm not holier than thou. I've said some dumb shit like this before. Our next comment says, just totally different mindset of a typical USA citizen, not understanding of the different countries in Europe. Literally all of the countries in Europe have shockingly different cultures, points of view, and different things. They're all neighbors, right? But like very different customs and courtesies. You have to see it to believe it. I know for a lot of Americans that have not traveled to Europe, they're like, oh, Europe, this whole conglomerate of the same thing. No. When I do these Europe versus USA videos, I'm doing it because there are some things that every single European country has that the United States of America does not have. I am very aware that all of those countries throughout Europe are very different from each other. In the video here, before I leave, let me let y'all in a little secret, okay? Before I leave, I want you guys to do me another favor. I'm going to start streaming regularly on twitch.tv/JamesBrayGang. That link will be in the top of my description. Go ahead and follow me over there. You guys get to correct me and catch me saying dumb things live, all right? And learning more about you guys' countries. I want to learn a lot more about the different countries within Europe.